I absolutely love shooting black and white street photography with this Leica Q2 Monochrom. But I was wondering, is film photography a better way to go? I've been told that shooting on film is the best way to go for black and white street photography, or in fact color street photography as well. So today I'm going to find out. I've got what I consider to be the best digital black and white street photography camera ever made, which is of course the Leica Q2 Monochrom. Now, those with an M monochrome will say, oh, ours is better. No, it's not. Q series, best. I've got a beautiful vintage film camera that I actually bought when I was 17 years old, and I saved all my money and bought a second-hand one in a camera store, local camera store, and all I could afford was a 50mm prime, and that's all I had for many, many years, and I bought it because I was going to college to learn photography. It's a Nikon EL2. I think it was made in 1978. It's all mechanical, manual focus lens, obviously. Everything is manual, very, very simple camera. I used this camera for the first maybe 10 years of my photography journey, and then eventually when digital cameras came out in 2005, I put it on the shelf and it's been there ever since. Yeah. So it's been collecting dust for 20 years. Today it's been dusted off and I put a roll of HP5 Plus black and white film in it, which is what I always used to use. I hope I put it in right. And we're going to compare the two. Before I even lift the camera and start taking photos today, there are two things that I've realized. The first is, well, I've always said the Leica Q2 Monochrom is the best user experience for a digital camera, for a pure photography experience. Simple, manual, easy to understand. There's no gimmicks and technology to get in the way if you don't want it to. And I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to enjoy using an old film camera. How can it compare? Well, before I loaded the film in, I got a new battery for the light meter because obviously that was dead, and I started playing with it, and the second you wind on the film, there was no film in it at the time, and press that shutter, oh my goodness, just the sound, the experience, the tactile experience and the sound of that shutter, it's better than the Leica. Much better. The other thing worth noting is with my film camera, I'm going to switch hands because my arm's aching. The other thing worth noting is with the film camera, because I'm obviously only at 400 ISO, I can't change that, it's set and forget. I'm at a disadvantage because, well, I can only put a yellow filter, or I've only dared to put a yellow filter on. The Leica's got a red filter. A bright day like this, I'd rather have a red or at least an orange filter, but I'm only putting a yellow filter on my film camera because I'm not going to have the shutter speed, the fast enough shutter speed that I like to work with if I'm going to lose, you know, stops of light. A red filter loses, I think, 3 stops of light, so I can get away with it on the Leica. The Leica I'm shooting at 3600 ISO in these bright conditions, believe it or not. It's perfect, the results are perfect. But with a film camera, you cannot do that. With a digital camera, you need to really, or certainly with a monochrome sensor, you need to protect your highlights. You cannot clip them because you cannot recover them. So I always shoot slightly underexposed. With a monochrome sensor, you can lift those shadows and the noise looks like film grain. It's a beautiful look. And I can play, I've got 3, 4, sometimes 5 stops I can play with, even at 3600 ISO, to get a sort of nice filmic result that I like. With a film camera, it's the other way around. You actually have to watch your shadows. You don't want to be crushing them too much. Now, with a color film, you can actually get more out of your highlights. less so with black and white, but still. I don't need to worry if I'm a stop or so over with black and white film, but I need to worry if I'm a stop or two under. So that's the big disadvantage. Yellow filter, 400 ISO. I really want to keep the shutter to at least 250. I mean, ideally 500 to 1000 is my preferable place to be. And of course I want to, for zone focusing, I'm going to be trying to keep f8 to f11 if I can. I don't really want to go below f5.6, but I've got a feeling with this film camera I'll have to. So you've got to work a little bit harder with the film camera, pay more attention. Enough chit chat, let's get going. After about an hour of wandering around Kensington Market, I've realised it's pretty much impossible to juggle 2 cameras and a GoPro on my own and try and get half decent photos and make a video. So I've hardly shot anything. The photos that I'm going to take with the cameras today, I think really are going to be test shots rather than good street photography. It's the last weekend of June and it's probably the best weekend to be in Toronto because it's Gay Pride weekend, and I've never actually come into the city for this event, but I was down here yesterday and it's just unbelievable how much there is to photograph. Lots of interesting characters and they're all willing to be photographed, which is really useful. Yesterday was a disaster because I had totally the wrong camera. I brought the Hasselblad X2D, which is not a good street photography camera at all. I wouldn't recommend it. I brought it because it's the last weekend I've got it. I've had it for 4 months and I've got to send it back to Hasselblad tomorrow. Going to be using one camera at a time and trying to get some decent photos so I can compare. I'm going to walk up and down the closed off area and alternate cameras. I'm going to start with digital, maybe for a half an hour, and then I'm going to switch to film and then back again and again until I'm tired. Well, that was a couple of hours of fun. So I used the digital camera for about half an hour, put it away in the bag, got the film camera out, popped the 28mm prime on it, and that was it. I was set for the rest of the afternoon. I had no interest in using the digital camera. It was just so much fun. It's like riding a bike, really. I was a bit wobbly, but once I got my balance again, just like 30 years, the last 30 years didn't even happen. So, because film slows you down, and some say, well, that's a good thing. Well, for general photography, you can slow down with a digital camera, but you're kind of forced to. With this sort of festival event, fast-moving street photography, you have no choice, and that's not a good thing. I can see myself doing a lot of film photography, but now I'm finished for the day. Here lies the issue. I can get home and I can look at the digital photos straight away, start processing them, right? But the film, well, I actually shot the whole roll. I finished my roll. Now I've got to figure out what to do. I don't have any developing labs in my town. The nearest one is actually Toronto, and I'm an hour's drive away. So for me to drive it and get it developed and then drive back a few days later that's not going to work. That's a lot of time and money. If I sent it to them by courier and they send it back, each picture is going to cost me about $2 by the time I'm done, when I add everything up. And they're pretty rubbish pictures. These are just test pictures. There's nothing decent there, I don't think. So the other option I've got is I can buy a little developing kit, order something on Amazon and develop my negatives myself. I've got a scanning system at home, which I'm going to talk about in another video. It's fantastic. So basically I'm using my Z9 with a macro lens on a light box, and it works really, really well. So stay tuned. Well, I finally got my black and white negs back, and I've taken a photo of them on my light box to make a quick contact sheet and scan the ones that look promising. Shooting film is expensive, and shooting street photography, well, you can get through a lot of film. My one roll of HP5 black and white negative film was $13. The processing was $9. For me to send the film to the lab and then for them to send it back, that was another $29. So to shoot 36 photos, that's 51 Canadian dollars. That works out at $1.40 per photo. That's insane. That's just black and white. Plus I had to wait almost 2 weeks just to get the negatives back. Anyway, here are a few of the photos from both cameras from my day out. I was more interested in using this camera again and enjoying the experience of using it than I was actually taking the photos. So they're not going to be that good. They're not that interesting either. So I'm not going to do my usual ratings, because I can tell you now, at best they're a 3 or 4 out of 10. Yeah, I was just enjoying getting back into the saddle and experiencing using this camera again. I mean, come on. I could do that all day. Good job there's not film in it. One of the things that has always appealed to me is that lovely organic quality to the medium. I just love film grain. But here lies the problem with film photography. Just because there's a lovely grain, a lovely aesthetic quality to the photos, that doesn't make them better than digital photos. You still need to photograph something that's actually interesting and do it in a very technically and creatively competent manner. I'm seeing too many people get into film photography and shoot pretty uninteresting scenes and hope that the aesthetic qualities of certain film stocks will carry the weight of that photo and somehow make it better than it actually is. And it doesn't. A boring photo is a boring photo, no matter what you shoot on. So the result of this little experiment is I really enjoy using these old mechanical, got to do that again, film cameras. There's just something so pleasing about holding something that's just mechanical and metal, not cheap plastic. That's just such a satisfying feeling. And I think nostalgia is playing a big role here, because, you know, this is what I used to have when I was a kid, this very camera. But shooting digital honestly makes far more sense financially and from a time point of view. Film makes more sense if you're shooting portraits, landscapes, or even travel, where you're taking your time and really thinking about your compositions. Ultimately, film and digital comes down to the user experience and the enjoyment of the process. And certainly part of that experience is holding and operating a mechanical tool. Now, it is possible to get that old school experience with a camera like this. One of the things I've realized, it's the actual holding the camera and the feel and the quality. That's a big part of the experience for me. And this Leica, it's all metal, it's just so well made, just like this Nikon is. So the experience is very, very similar. I guess there's an advantage to this one because there's no shutter noise. You can have it completely silent. Well, that clunky thing, as great as it sounds, it's not so good for the more stealthy type of street photography that you might want to do. So this camera remains my favorite camera, the best camera for me to do the job of street photography, urban and travel photography too, come to that. In fact, all types of photography. That is my preference, but I am still going to be taking that camera, the old camera, and running some film through it from time to time. In terms of the look of a film photo over a digital photo, and it somehow looking more organic, more natural, and therefore better, I do not buy that. I think that's nonsense. I can still achieve that film look with my digital camera. Here's one of the digital photos from the day, which is typical of how I process my images. And it does have a film-like aesthetic. I certainly think it does, and I could push that even further if I want to, like this. And here's a film photo to compare. Can you really tell the difference between film and digital here? And more importantly, does it matter? I don't think so. I like the fact that when I get home, I can see my digital photos immediately and they're not costing me $1.40 each. I dread to think what using Portra 400 would cost, although I did buy a roll last week, so we'll maybe see another time. So moving forward, I am going to be shooting film once in a while. I just need to figure out my costs, and the shipping back and forth is the biggest cost, so I'm going to be looking at processing my own negatives at home. So that might be a topic for another video another time. There's a good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I do appreciate you watching, and I'll see you very soon.